All right, welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com NHL DFS Strategy Show. I am your host for today, Jake Hari, and I'm joined by Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Wow, I haven't done that in a while. Already one slip up. We've got 5 games to discuss for tonight. We're going to get into everything, probably talk some general strategy. Mr. C, how you doing today?
Not too bad. I was a little surprised to wake up this morning to a snowstorm, which, certainly not expecting here in the 4th week of March. Was kind of hoping that was behind us, but you know what? I like to go for runs during the day, and I find going for a run during like a light snowfall very peaceful. Like it's my favorite running weather when it's like just slightly below zero, light snowfall. Give me that for running weather any day of the week above, minus 20 during the winter, plus 30 during the summer.
Wow. So you actually prefer to run in cold weather then? Isn't that harder on the lungs though?
Yeah, it is. But also I tend to overheat in the summer. So yeah, I'm not a too big of a fan of running during the summer. I try to do it early in the morning or late at night or something like that. But yeah, we are here to talk NHL. We had quite the couple of slates on Saturday and Sunday. Lots to talk about in those games. Some really, really banger contests we had.
Yeah. So yesterday, just because that's on the mind, that's what happened most recently. The Penguins changed up their lines. We got the news 5 minutes before lock or so. And I saw a bunch of people in chat took advantage and got on. I think it was Malkin, Rust, and Raquel. So good looking line. I was MMEing and trying to get more pit one in. So I had a bunch of I had a ton of Rust and 0 Malkin and 0 Raquel because I had to X out Carter because I didn't know. I think he went from line 2 to line 3 or something with Malkin in. And the power play stack was straight fire yesterday if you had that. So I saw our boy Nihas had a big night in his single entry. The single entry screenshots always look really nice. They're clean, right? When I post one, I don't often post one. I haven't had a lot to post lately anyways, but when I post one, it just looks all messy. All the little circles are scattered across the entire contest. When a single entry guy takes down on mobile, man, it just looks so clean. Our boy Josh Harris as well, who I'm filling in for today, and potentially a couple more days this week. He took down. He had a really, really good lineup. Got let down by the goalie. So I think he said if he would have started anybody else but Spencer Knight in his lineup, who had a negative 1.4, he would have had a huge night, and he still had 10x or something like that. So congrats to Josh. What else on the weekend did you want to discuss here, Cliffy?
I mean, that Edmonton Calgary game for sure, especially where we have Edmonton coming up on the slate here tonight. 14 goals between those two teams. And, we do make fun of Edmonton here a lot, mainly because they're not nearly as good as they probably should be, considering the talent, the high end upside offensive talent that they have. But, putting up 5 goals against Calgary is nothing. And they've been, Edmonton's been pretty good defensively since their new coach took over, Jay Woodcroft. I'd say it's been about 6 weeks with him now. They've been fairly good defensively, and seeing, even Calgary, I do think Calgary is one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league. Seeing them just absolutely decimate what is a fairly, at least a good Oilers team, maybe not great, but a good Oilers team, watching them just absolutely just throttle them was kind of shocking, honestly. I mean, you get games like that where, just look at Pittsburgh last night with 11 goals. You'll get games where you just kind of throw everything out the window. But I was kind of surprised to see that many goals between those two teams. But I guess, sometimes with those rivalry games, what you think might happen just kind of goes out the window when all the adrenaline gets amped up or something like that.
Yeah. And that was a game that you could tell right away, that Calgary Edmonton game, that was just going to be a high scoring one. It was wide open. I watched a few minutes of it. And you could just tell it looked like a 9-6, 9-7 game or whatever it ended at. So a lot of skill on both sides. And it's something that Homer Cleese, our buddy, used to talk about a lot. When two teams with really good offenses or just a lot of skilled players, sometimes you see lower totals. And I think it was a 6.5 total. So not a perfect example, but there's just a wide range of outcomes. And you'll know usually pretty quickly how the game's, if it's going to be more wide open or more tight checking. So that's something I always think about when you've got these really low owned spots of teams on the road, like Edmonton going into Calgary. That for people that play NHL DFS every day, we know that's not the best spot, but they were projected to be under 5% owned on a pretty reasonably sized slate. It wasn't like a 14 game slate or anything like that. So so people got rewarded if they played Edmonton. If you played Calgary, you were also in a pretty good spot as well. My best lineup had Calgary. I guessed on the old Calgary one lines, got that right at warmups. So got lucky there. Didn't result in any money though, except for on sponsor Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Made some money over there. So that's nice to see. Contests are still good over there. For our fellow Canadians, at least for now. Did you want to talk about that as well, Cliffy?
Yeah, I mean, it's if people haven't heard, maybe you just tune into the show for a little bit of DFS advice, make a lineup, and then log off or something like that. The province of Ontario has passed new gaming regulations, let's say, and FanDuel is ceasing DFS operations in the province of Ontario as of April 1st, which I think is this coming Friday. And then Yahoo and DraftKings are expected to follow suit sometime, in the next week or two. So I don't know how many NHL DFS players there are in Ontario and what percentage of the volume that they make up specifically. Got to think it's going to be a reasonable hit to the prize pools, at least over on FanDuel. We'll see what happens this weekend when those get cut down, what that might mean for DraftKings or Yahoo moving forward, the last month of the season, heading into the playoffs, certainly going into next year. We don't really know what's going to happen with the other Canadian provinces. I suspect you'll see some follow suit. I don't know. There isn't a large enough population in most provinces, let's be honest, to really carry a DFS. Pretty sure my entire province has the same population as Indianapolis. You're not going to see Indianapolis only DFS pop up. So I don't know if we'll get New Brunswick only DFS, but maybe something like Atlantic Canada and Ontario, maybe British Columbia or something like that. So I don't think it's really great news for people that are looking for big prize pools. We're going to get DFS in some form. It's just a matter of, are the prize pools going to be $5,000 or $50,000? And I got to think it's going to be more of the former than the latter if this keeps going. So I don't know. It's kind of frustrating, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it right now.
Yeah. So sorry to deliver the bad news if you haven't heard, but that's too bad. I mean, hopefully it doesn't affect the prize pools, but it's probably going to in some way, hopefully very little. It just sucks. So if you're tuning in for actual DFS talk, that will get started in just a few minutes here. Just want to remind you guys to like and subscribe to the channel. Keep up with all of our shows. If you hit the notification bell, you'll get alerts when our show goes live, as well as the 3 other shows that are going on in about an hour after our show starts. We'll have Locks Before Lock. We'll have the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock for NBA. I like the name Locks Before Locks. I haven't had to say it too much, but that's a credit to whoever came up with that name behind the scenes, or whichever one of the hosts came up with it. I like that a lot. Free premium tools for the day. NHL player projections. Those, I believe I just updated those a few minutes ago. I'll do that as well after the show. And then NBA player rankings as well. So if you're playing some NBA tonight, make sure you tune in to the shows later. Make sure you check out the free NBA player projections for the night. We've also got MLB coming up. So a little bit of bad news to start off the show, and then we get into the good news. MLB DFS is right around the corner. Opening day, just a few days from now. You can save 25% when you use promo code Trout on the Awesemo Plus MLB annual pass. You'll get access to the top stacks tool, the top pitchers tool, as well as Discord access, projections, all the good stuff that you get for pretty much every sport. Top stacks tool is kind of where it all started for the top stacks tool and the derivative tools of it for MLB. So that's everyone's favorite. I use that every day to make lineups when I'm playing MLB. And if you don't take advantage of promo code Trout, it will drop to 15% off on April 1st. So you got to act fast, get to 25%, but you still got a chance to save a little bit of money if you're waiting around procrastinating. Just click the link in the description to activate this offer. All right, Cliffy, let's get into the games. I'm using the lineup builder. If you guys want to follow along, it's just nhl.lineups.awesemo.com, and you'll get the projections, ownership, and stack projections as well if you have the premium version. So great tool. We all use it every single day. And let's get started with Carolina and Washington. We've got a 3.2 implied total for Carolina, 2.8 for the Caps. Freddie Anderson and Vitek Vanacek are both confirmed. Some news in this game, Cliffy let me know before the show. Top line Tom Wilson has returned with Kuznetsov and Alex Ovechkin. Second line is Mantha, Backstrom, and Oshie. So they kind of stacked up their top six on the Washington side. Teravainen and Aho with Seth Jarvis still showing on line one, Svechnikov, Trocheck, and Netchis line two. And the Stahl line remains the same as we've seen the last handful of games. So nothing really changing on the Carolina side. What are you liking in this one so far?
Yeah, seeing Tom Wilson move back to the top line is kind of interesting here because he was taken off, I don't know, probably right around they acquired Marcus Johansson, so maybe a week ago, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And it was for good reason they took him off that line too, because Josh and I talked about it on one of the shows last week that Kuznetsov and Ovechkin have had very bad defensive numbers basically over the last month or so for the Caps. And a lot of that was with Tom Wilson on the top line with them. Just to bear it out in the numbers, they only controlled 39% of the scoring chances in their last 80 minutes together, allowing 41 scoring chances against per 60 minutes. That is very porous defensively. If you look at their actual goals against for the month of March, or for the last couple of weeks so far, I should say, Evgeny Kuznetsov sitting north of 4 goals against per 60, 3.6 when you look at the whole month of March. So like they had been playing poor defensively with Tom Wilson there, which is why it's kind of a surprise to see him back. Now, they had a pretty good start to the season, maybe the first 6 weeks, but have really slowed down after that. And the other problem here is Nick Dowd doesn't look like he's going to be playing tonight. And when Nick Dowd is out of the lineup, or when Nick Dowd is in the lineup, he tends to take a lot of the tough matchups, or not a lot, but some of them anyway. When he's not, they don't really line match. And so that'll get that Washington top line. They're going to see a fair bit of that Aho line. They might even run to that Stahl line for a few shifts. So it seems like a pretty bad 5-on-5 matchup for that top line. So I'm not super gung-ho on Washington one here tonight. They're coming in with reasonable ownership. They're not going to come in too highly owned. One thing we've talked about is Ovechkin has been losing some ice time over the last 6 weeks. It's started to climb a bit, like he's now between 19 and 20 minutes over his last handful of games, but that's not the 21 minutes or whatever that he was playing earlier in the year. So it's reflected in the price drop across the entire line, and they're not coming in with much ownership. So it would be an ownership play to use them here today. I don't think they're a particularly good line. It's the second line that kind of interests me because Oshie and Backstrom are expected to be on the top power play unit. Carolina does have a very good penalty kill, but they do take a lot of penalties. That Washington second line, not coming in with a ton of ownership either, about 3.5% by our top stacks tool. They started slow as well. With Backstrom and Backstrom came back from injury, Mantha came back from injury, so did Oshie. Like all three guys were hurt for a good chunk of the year. So maybe it just took them a little bit of time to get their act together, but they have been, climbing the scoring chance share marks over the last few weeks. So I don't mind that Washington second line here today. They'll probably see a fair amount of that Carolina second line, and Carolina too with Svechnikov and Netchis. They just haven't been good defensively. If you look at their numbers, 46% of the scoring chances allowing 34 scoring chances against per 60 minutes in their last 50 minutes together. They've just been a little bit porous. So I kind of think I do like Washington too here in this game. Like I said in the last show, if you want to turn it into a power play stack and add Ovechkin or something like that, because Carolina does take a lot of penalties, I think that's fine here. But it's Washington too that I like most on the Cap side. on the Carolina side, I find Carolina 1 a very interesting option here tonight, because the problem with Carolina 1 for, a lot of the second half of the season was a top line of Teravainen, Svechnikov, and Aho was like $22,000 on DraftKings, and they just weren't scoring. You add Seth Jarvis there instead of Svechnikov, you take about $4,000 off the price, or at least over on DraftKings. And now all of a sudden they're very reasonably priced, and they're not going to get that tough Nick Dowd matchup, tough-ish Nick Dowd matchup against Washington. They should see a fair bit of that Washington top line. So they're very high event both ways. So maybe they do give it up a little bit, but they are generating 38 scoring chances per 60 minutes on their own. So Carolina 1, I do like on the Carolina side. The third line I think is interesting, but it's not a case where I would full stack. They have been playing well, especially on the defensive side of the puck, but it's another case where, I'd one off Nino Niederreiter, or, especially Nino Niederreiter, maybe one off Jesper Fast if you have to save a couple $100. So maybe some one-offs from Carolina 3, but it's Carolina 1 that I'm really interested in this game. I think my favorite line from the Washington side is Washington 2.
I'm right there with you. Those were the two I had written down, and then your Carolina 3, of course. So, yeah, I mean, Carolina 1 just really great offensive numbers in a pretty short sample, but it's been a few games now. So I'll take shots on any line on a 5-game slate that has those kind of numbers, even if it's a short sample. They're, let's see, just under 5% owned according to the Top Stacks tool. Mentioned Ovi's ice time. That's why he's not projecting as a great value. Like usually he's really high priced, which 8,600. That's not super high for what DraftKings has been doing this season, but it's up there. And if you look at the players around him, he projects as like the worst value, but he's still got a ton of upside. So I'm going to get to a bunch of Ovi one-offs in my 3-2-1 lineups, or at least I'm going to try to. We'll see if I'm scrambling at lock, but that's something that I have written down that I do want to get to if he's going to be under 10% on a slate of this size. Anything on the blue line on either side? Tony D, top power play for Carolina. Maybe he goes with some Carolina 1, but he's 5,800. And then same thing with John Carlson, 7K tonight with a 2.8 implied total. I'm not seeing anything from the power play guys, but anything else you like?
Yeah, I'm not super high on either Tony D or John Carlson here. The main reason is that these are both pretty good penalty kills, actually. I mean, Carolina has typically been the best penalty kill in the league basically the entire season. So I'm not sure how much I'd want to one-off John Carlson or anything like that here tonight. And it's kind of the same thing on the with Tony DeAngelo. Like Washington's penalty kill is not as good, but they also don't take a ton of minor penalties anyways. So I think if I'm looking for defensemen here, this is a spot where I'm going to dip down. Martin Fehervary is somebody that I always play from the cap side. It's basically he consistently plays like 21 minutes a night. And Carolina is a high shot volume team, right? So I think if you're playing on DraftKings, 2,700, I think the block bonus is certainly in play for him here tonight. On the Carolina side, anytime Brett Pesce is in that low to mid threes range on DraftKings, I have no problem playing him for kind of the same reason as Fehervary is like he's going to consistently play well over 20 minutes. And Pesce does have some more offensive upside than Fehervary does. So those would probably be the two guys that I'm looking at in this one.
Yeah, I'm looking on the Carolina side. Pesce mentioned it, and Shea as well, 3,500. Those guys are both fine for punts, but I don't think I'm going to have a lot of defensemen in this game. Let's get to Vancouver and St. Louis. We've got a 2.8 implied total on the road for the Canucks going into St. Louis, who have a 3.2 implied total. When I was looking at the lineup builder, when we ran our first ownership run, I was really surprised to see Vancouver 1 and Vancouver 2 in double digits in ownership on DK, because I kind of like them, but I didn't think that they would be as popular. At those ownerships, it makes for an interesting conversation, especially on the road. They don't even have the highest implied total in their game. And then you've got no ownership on the blue side, really. No one above 10% expected ownership, including their goalie, Ville Husso. So what are you doing with this one here? It seems kind of flipped to me.
Yeah, it's the problem we've been running into with St. Louis basically for like a month now. And it's kind of mirrored in the situation with the Calgary Flames as well, is St. Louis really does balance out the ice time with their top three lines. Like, Ryan O'Reilly's probably going to play the most or close to the most of anybody amongst the St. Louis forwards. David Perron is probably going to be up near the top as well, but they basically just don't play their fourth line. Like their fourth line will get like maybe 9 or 10 minutes, and then they'll split the other 50 minutes, or however much, amongst the top three lines. So maybe you'll see the top line at like 19, the second line at like 17, and then the third line at like 15 or something like that. And when you spread out ice time like that, and you have, both power play units are effectively spread out, spread out across those three lines, and they split the power play time, right? Like this is a team that it's not exactly 50-50, but it's fairly close to it when you look at how they split the power play time amongst their forwards. So when you have even ice time at 5-on-5, even-ish ice time at 5-on-5, even-ish ice time on the power play, it kind of makes sense that you'll see a lot of spread out ownership between those three lines. Now, it's good for them in the real world, just like it is for Calgary. Like if you can roll three lines, three really good lines, it's good for you in the real world. For DFS, it can be kind of a pain because you're trying to figure out where the goals are going to come from on any given night, because any of these lines could have a huge night on any given night, given their roles and their ice time and all that. So when you go like that, you basically kind of just have to go by price and by upside. And when I look at our projections have that second line in our lineup builder coming in with a lot of points, like over 30 points. That's not super high, but it's the highest for any line in this game. And that second line has also been pretty good this year when they have played together. 58% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice, generating 32 per 60 minutes. That's one of the problems that I talked about on the show, I believe on the weekend, with Thomas and Tarasenko, is that they kind of need Buchnevich as the third wheel on that line to really help carry the defensive side of things anyway. So to make sure that they can turn the puck over and get it back going offensively. So I really do like that St. Louis second line here today. The problem with that St. Louis second line had typically been that they were getting 16 or 17 minutes, but they're still coming in at 18 or 19,000 on DraftKings. The price has dropped. The price has dropped to under 17K on DraftKings. So it's a lot more palatable to play a line that's 16,800 playing 17 minutes than, 19,800 that's playing 17 minutes. So I don't mind that St. Louis second line here today. Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko. You get Tarasenko on the top power play unit, Buchnevich, Thomas on the second. The top power play unit for St. Louis has actually started to turn around a little bit. So that's why I don't mind the St. Louis top line either, Saad, O'Reilly, Perron, because the Vancouver penalty kill is not very good. Close to the bottom 10 by expected goals against over the last 6 weeks. So I think if you want to go O'Reilly, Perron, and Saad, I think that's perfectly fine. Their ownership is in check on our top stacks tool. They're not expensive. O'Reilly and Perron probably should play around 19 minutes. It's a good power play matchup. So I think both the top two lines are perfectly fine here tonight, but it is St. Louis too that I like better. They've had a longer sample of being good together this season, whereas the Ryan O'Reilly line, it's basically only been the last 4 weeks that they turned it on. So, can they keep it going? I think they can, but I think it's more of an open question as opposed to the second line. So it's Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko that I like the most on the blue side. On the Vancouver side, that second line has actually played fairly decent, which kind of surprised me because Horvat and Besser typically don't play well. They typically don't have good numbers, and it's not something that would just be this season. It's something that goes back a while. Horvat and Besser typically not gangbusters by puck possession, but I think Elias Pettersson has certainly helped them in that regard. 53% of the scoring chances, which is good for them. So you get all three guys on the top power play unit as well. The problem is St. Louis's penalty kill is excellent, and that's kind of why I'm shying away from Vancouver like as a whole here today, is because Vancouver is one of the more power play reliant teams in the league, which means they really, really need their power play to come through for their guys to have fantasy value. I mean, all you have to do is look at JT Miller's production so far this year. He has 33 points on the power play so far through 65 games, right? Like this guy's could put up like 40 power play points on the season, which is great for fantasy, but if they don't score on the power play, it shows like they have a lot to make up at 5-on-5, and I don't know if they can do it. So if I were to play anything from Vancouver, it would be that second line because they are relatively cheap, perfectly correlated on the power play. We have them coming in with lower ownership than the top line. So I don't mind that Vancouver second line if that's where you want to go in the Canucks, but I'm going to be honest. It's a very bad power play spot for them. And where I think I'm playing single entry tonight, that's going to be the reason that I don't play, up 15% top line or 11% second line, is that it's just a bad power play matchup for them. So in single entry, I'm out on Vancouver. If I was 20 maxing, I would probably have like a couple of that second line here in this game, but in single entry, I'm out. So 4 forwards in this game. I do like St. Louis 2 the most. I don't mind St. Louis 1 if you want to get there for some additional power play exposure, especially with this bad Vancouver penalty kill on the Vancouver side. Some Vancouver 2 once you get to like your 20 max and your 150s and all that.
Yeah, I think Vancouver 2 is going to be the one that I gravitate towards more in MME. And while you were talking, I was just like clicking around on the lineup builder to see how lineups look, at least to start with. If you just click in Vancouver 2 with any of Chicago 1, Edmonton 1, or Edmonton 2, and it's really, really easy to get there. So like, if you're just going 3-3 correlated goalie with those, like any combination of those two, or with Vancouver 1 even, you're at a high probability of being duped. So I think in my Vancouver 2 lineups, it might be like Besser Pettersson or Horvat Besser, Horvat Pettersson type of thing as a 2-man, maybe leave one of the guys off and then go with a 1-off elsewhere, because you don't want to get duped. It's a big enough slate where, you should be able to avoid that. And then I agree with you on St. Louis 2. That was my favorite line on that side. So I don't have a ton to add. I think St. Louis 3 is a playable third line though, as well. Like they're probably going to get 14, 15, 16 minutes somewhere in there. At least Shen and Kyrou, I like a lot as a 2-man. You can leave off Barbashev if you'd like. But I just really surprised at this ownership on Vancouver 1 and Vancouver 2 to some extent. But Vancouver 1 is even higher owned, which scratched my head a little bit about, because which line do you think O'Reilly, Saad, and Perron are going to see? Did you talk about that? Did I miss that?
It'll be the JT Miller line, I imagine, because that's the line that most teams have been matching against when Vancouver's on the road. Okay,
so that's what I thought. So yeah, for me, like it's clear Vancouver 2 over Vancouver 1, and ownership is flipped there. Saad, O'Reilly, and Perron. You mentioned this on a show like a couple of weeks ago, how well they've been playing recently. Maybe it was last week. And they've still kept that up. I looked at their last like 10 or 12 games, and they've been really tough at 5-on-5. And you mentioned the power play matchup is poor. So I'll take the better 5-on-5 line, the Pettersson, Besser, Horvat line at lower ownership if I'm going to Vancouver here. What about defensemen?
Do we have to talk about Nick Leddy again? I'm kind of.
We don't have to.
I'm kind of getting tired about having to talk about Nick Leddy. Like, he's a $2,600 defenseman who won't bring peripherals, but like he doesn't need a ton to really reach value here tonight, right? Like an assist and a few shots, and you're probably happy with that considering his price. It's just frustrating because he just doesn't bring a lot to the DFS game. He really needs that production to get through. And, like I said, the St. Louis top power play has really started to come along of late. Like David Perron has been shooting the lights out on the power play, especially. So, maybe Nick Leddy can get there against a bad penalty kill. I'm not going to say, don't put him in with a St. Louis 1 or a St. Louis power play stack or something like that, because, he does bring down the average cost of the line, and then maybe you can get to a higher price stack elsewhere. I certainly wouldn't be one-offing him here tonight. Leddy for me would only be in, St. Louis 1, St. Louis power play stacks. Nothing else for me on the St. Louis side. On the Vancouver side, like I don't mind Tyler Myers for his price, especially on DraftKings. On DraftKings, he's only 3,100. For 3,100, he's very much in line for a shot block bonus here tonight with the minutes that he plays. I don't even think he's that bad over on FanDuel, where he's still only 3,900. I know he probably needs production to get there, but he still doesn't project poorly for his price. So I don't mind Tyler Myers in this matchup. Actually, he seems like a decent punty type here tonight, at least over on DraftKings if you want to get some blocks in.
Turk asks, as a general question, he says, in 3 max, do you recommend using a tight pool of, say, 2 to 4 defensemen?
I do. Usually when I 3 max, usually what I do is I build around maybe 1 or 2 core stacks, usually even just 1 core stack, and then I'll use a bunch of different fillers. But it's the fillers that I change around. It's not usually the defensemen. So like, let's say tonight my core stack is Chicago. No, I won't use Chicago because I won't be Seth Jones. But let's say it's like LA1 plus Sean Dursey. I'll have LA1 plus Sean Dursey in all 3 lineups, or certainly at least 2 out of the 3. And then maybe I correlate a defenseman with the goalie, something like that, with the rest of them. So then I only end up using maybe 4 defensemen or 5 defensemen across the 3 lineups. So that's kind of the way I do it. Is I correlate 1 defenseman with a goalie, maybe 1 defenseman with a line, and that kind of keeps my player pool relatively tight, because I do use I'll use the same goalie a lot. I don't spread out my goalie ownership. So that's just kind of the way I run it.
Yeah, for me, I played a little bit more of a spread out approach, and when I'm making 3 max, I'm usually doing like 3 different main stacks, and sometimes I have like 2 with main stacks, like your Toronto ones, your Edmonton power plays, and then maybe I'll do another lineup that's like balanced out, or like 2 mid-tier stacks. So I might be able to get 2 expensive defensemen. So I wouldn't really make a rule, but I think you could do 3 to 4 defensemen that you really like at different price points, and just kind of mix them together. I don't have an issue with that if you're hand building. So, all right, let's talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, the sponsor of the show. They've been our sponsor all season. They've been very good to us, and they do have some good NHL contests. If you want to get some additional action, or you want to bring it back to the 2015 FanDuel days where they had plus minus. I actually kind of like the plus minus over on Yahoo. But if you want to check out our exclusive limited time offer, you can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you got to do is follow a couple steps. You got to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link in the description, deposit, and enter a paid contest. And then Yahoo will hook you up with a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And we also have tools to help you out that are made specifically for Yahoo. So we've got Yahoo NHL DFS projections. Just click on the tab. Those are actually free for today. If you guys want to take a look over there, pricing's a little bit different. And there's 2 goaltenders. So if you're playing over there, just be aware of that. But I like the gameplay over there, and they're building their contests. I do like playing over there, actually. Like, I'm not just saying that. I would play over there every day, even if they weren't a sponsor of the show. So we like Yahoo, and you guys should give them a shot. And you can you could get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you go over there and you're a brand new user. Let's get to, oh man. All right. So here's where it starts. This is quite the slate. The last 3 games are going to be a festival. This is where all your ownership is going to be in these final 3. So Buffalo and Chicago, 2.7 implied total for the Sabres, 3.3 for the Hawks. Tokarski is the probable starter. I'm not seeing any confirmation just yet. And then Kevin Lankinen at 8K for the Hawks. Strome, DeBrincat, Kane, a line that I have had a tough time with over my DFS career. Although I think I got a win with them a couple months ago. So they haven't been all bad for me. But wow, they are going to be over 20% projected ownership with Patrick Kane coming in. Over 25% on DraftKings. I can't really disagree with it. I don't know. Maybe you could talk me out of Chicago 1 here, and then Buffalo 1 coming in with 10% ownership on the road. Don't mind that either. But what are you gravitating towards here, Cliffy?
So the problem with Chicago 1 that we talk about a lot is typically Patrick Kane tends to drag down the defensive numbers of the entire line. And when they get pinned in their own zone, obviously there's nothing that they can do offensively, and you tend to have very bad games when that happens. But they've, like, under Derek King, they've been pretty good. Their last 130 minutes spanning their last 3 weeks or so of play, they're controlling 55% of the scoring chances. Like, I don't think Patrick Kane has seen that in an extended line combination in like 5 years. they've actually been really, really good. And obviously, they're perfectly correlated on the top power play as well together. You talk about the ownership that they're coming in with. If you look at our lineup builder over on DraftKings, they're projected for over 38 points. We'll talk about the Edmonton top line in the next game, but the Edmonton top line is projected for 39 points even. Like, there's a reason why the Chicago top line is coming in with considerable ownership. And it's not only that, it's that they are not expensive. They're coming in under 20K, like, 19,500. It's a relatively hefty price. But when you consider, and it's, depending how you make your lineup, could be the most expensive line on the slate. But it's a great matchup, and two, they're actually playing well together. And, by the leverage on our top stacks tool, even at, 25% ownership or whatever, they're going to come in with significantly positive leverage. So I don't think there's necessarily a reason to fade the Chicago top line here tonight, especially when you consider that they don't use them in a shutdown role, right? Like, you'll either see the Taves line, or maybe even the third line now with Phil Kurashev coming back in the lineup if Kirby Dach is out. They might even use Phil Kurashev a little bit in a shutdown role. And in the month of March, when the Buffalo Sabres have the top line off the ice, they're only controlling 41% of the expected goals. Like, the Buffalo is really a one-line team at the moment. Like, they do have some nice depth pieces, but it's really not enough to bring together a full line that can play well. So where that Chicago is probably going to get some depth matchups against what's really not very good depth for Buffalo. It is a back-to-back for the Sabres, back-to-back on the road, which Josh and I always talk about. It's a tough situation for any team. Goals against go up, goals for goes down. It's just really, really tough. It's a really tough situation. So, like, I can't argue with 25% Chicago won here tonight. It seems perfectly reasonable for me on a 5-game slate. So I do like that Chicago top line. The Chicago second line, like, I don't know if I'm going to be full stacking any lines besides that top line. One reason is that Chicago second line has Taylor Radish on it. Tyler Johnson is expected back in the lineup tonight for Chicago. And basically, whenever he's been healthy this season, they've really tried to make it work with him on the top power play unit. Now, we don't know for sure if he's going to be on the top power play. And in fact, as Josh pointed out to us in the Discord, Taylor Radish scored on the power play over the weekend. So why would you want to break up maybe some chemistry that they might be generating with those two guys, or with that guy that they brought in that Brandon Hagel trade? But again, they have been playing Tyler Johnson on the top power play unit a lot this year when he's been healthy. So that's my one concern here for that Chicago second line is, are any of those guys going to be on the top power play unit? And the top power play unit takes all the minutes, right? So like, the penalty kill for Buffalo, like, it's good, but not great. And the Chicago power play has been on a tear of late. Over 10 expected goals per 60 minutes over the last 20 minutes together. I really do like that Chicago top line here tonight. I don't think ownership is a reason to fade them. If you want to fade them here tonight, I'm not sure exactly what the reason would be. Like, I think the reason, the reason would be like you're playing Edmonton or you're playing Washington or something like that, or maybe you're playing an expensive St. Louis line or things like that. That would be the only reason that you would fade them. But it's back to back. It's a reasonable power play spot. The line is playing very well. They're going to get good in-game matchups. Like, there's a lot of good reasons to play that Chicago top line. I don't think I'm playing any full lines from their depth. So it would be the Buffalo side that we should get to. And that Buffalo top line, here's the problem with that Buffalo top line is they're pretty good offensively. I was looking at their month of March, 3.5 expected goals generated per 60 minutes. And like, that's really good. But as we pointed out in our Discord, their minutes are just getting chopped. They're down. Like, I think Jeff Skinner's at like 16:30 a game over the last 2 weeks. I think he did have a 2-goal game in there where I didn't play him, but 16:30 over the last 2 weeks. The top, Tuckett and Tage Thompson are around 17:30 per game over the last 2 weeks. Like, I think they're like, everybody in the top 12 is playing between like 13 and 18 minutes a game. That includes their fourth line. When you get really spread out ownership like that, as we talked about or really spread out ice time like that. Sorry, as we talked about in the St. Louis game, it can make it really tough to play a line that's only going to play 16 or 17, maybe 18 minutes. And it's not like we're getting a huge ownership savings on them, right? They're coming in 10% ownership. And like, I think that's fine, but do I want to play that line for 17 minutes? I think I would rather just go to the Chicago top line. I know they'll be higher owned, but we have them for a way higher top two stack percentage by our top stacks. And they're perfectly correlated on the power play with pretty good in-game matchups. Like, the Chicago depth isn't very good here either. And I think that would be a reason to play Buffalo. If Chicago does send out their second and third lines, which they probably will, against that Buffalo top line, that Buffalo top line should be able to get the run of the play. But again, it's only 16, 17, or 18 minutes for those forwards. So is that going to be enough to pay off their price? That'll be up for DFS owners to kind of make that decision for themselves. They're still projecting very, very well. Let's get that straight. They're coming in for over 30 points. They're coming in they're coming in with more points than St. Louis 2. Let's just put it that way. And, St. Louis 2 is roughly the same price as that line. So like, there's no reason not to play Buffalo here tonight. It's just a minutes concern for me. So if you want to play Buffalo 1, no problem playing it, but I really do like Chicago 1 in this matchup here tonight, especially where it's that back-to-back on the road and Tokarski and net. So I think the line, I hate to be Captain Obvious here, but I think the line that I like the most is just Chicago 1. If you want to get to Buffalo 1, I'm not going to say no, but there are minutes concerns there for me. Whereas, Kane and DeBrincat and Strome should clear 20 plus here tonight.
Yeah, I'm only on the top lines here. Maybe get to some two-mans of the depth just because I play a ton of lineups. But yeah, it's not going to be because I'm trying to jam in Rasmus Asplund, Peyton Krebs, or whatever. I'm playing a ton of Blackhawks right now. Blackhawks top line. So the times have changed. I usually get on and just bash them, but their numbers have been so much better at 5-on-5 this year with this trio and fully correlated top power play. They're probably going to play around 20 minutes. Hard to see. And they're gonna not face the best line, the only line that you're worried about for Buffalo very often. So Chicago 1's the play. I've got them over Edmonton right now in my exposures. That's probably going to remain true up to lock. Seth Jones, 6K, just slamming, 21% ownership. Anything?
I mean, I don't have a huge problem with it because he's I think he's been playing 27 minutes a game over last 15 days or whatever it is. So like, I'm not going to say you can't play any defenseman getting power play 1 minutes in a good power play matchup playing 27 minutes. It's just, if you throw in Seth Jones with that top line, you're going to be a little bit hamstrung with what you can do with the rest of your lineup. Like, you're going to have to go down to those, the Vancouvers or the Carolina 2s or, something like that. You won't be able to get in. I think even most the top you might be able to get in St. Louis 1, but I don't mind Seth Jones. I think, on the Buffalo side, I would be looking back to my guy, Matthias Samuelsson, for blocks, min price over on DraftKings. He's playing 21 minutes of late. So don't mind Samuelsson if you want to get some blocks in on the Buffalo side. I honestly don't. If you don't want to play Buffalo 1 here tonight, I think Rasmus Dahlin as a one-off makes some sense here. The Chicago penalty kill isn't very good on its own. Like, it's about as bad as the Buffalo penalty kill is. And that would be another reason to play the Buffalo top line here is, maybe they can make some hay against that bad Chicago penalty kill. But Buffalo does have a bad power play on their own. But in case, that power play does do something, Rasmus Dahlin will probably be involved. He plays relatively heavy minutes, like 24 minutes a game or something. So if you don't want to pay up like a 7K John Carlson over in Washington or a 5,800 Tony DeAngelo for Carolina or, a 6K Seth Jones, I think a 4,800 Rasmus Dahlin over on DraftKings as a one-off definitely makes some sense for me here tonight.
All right, let's move it on to another doozy. We've got the Arizona Coyotes, 2.3 implied total on the road, going into Edmonton, who's got a 4.2 implied total, largest on the night by over a half goal. They're going to be popular. They've got new lines. So McDavid and Kane stay together. Puljujärvi back on line 1 at $3,300. And then Yamamoto slides to line 2 with Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. On the Arizona side, we're showing the same lines in the lineup builder. But if you want to talk about how they switched it up, if people are interested in playing Arizona, feel free to take it away here. I think we all know what we're doing here.
Yeah. The tough part about, there's two tough parts about Arizona. One, if it is Nick Ritchie on that top line for Arizona with Keller and Schmaltz, at least over on DraftKings, it's a 3-winger line. So then you do have to get a little bit different with the rest of your lineup. Now, a triple winger line where Nick Ritchie is super cheap, it makes the entire line relatively cheap. I think it's $13,300 for the 3 of them. And then over in Edmonton, you have Draisaitl, McDavid, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins that are all playable centers for Edmonton here tonight. So you can stick 2 of them in and do some sort of game stack with a double Edmonton center and then that triple Arizona wingers. But we don't really know exactly how Arizona is going to line up because obviously with that back-to-back, they're not, they didn't have morning skate today or anything. I haven't seen the coach talk yet. Not like, I don't think anybody interviews the Arizona coach anymore anyway, besides Craig Morgan. I'm pretty sure he's the only guy that interviews him at this point. So I'm not super gung-ho on getting to that Arizona line, especially where Edmonton, with those new line combinations where they moved Puljujärvi up with McDavid, what that kind of indicates to me is that they're going, they have been using Leon Draisaitl in a shutdown role for a while now, certainly since Jay Woodcroft had come in. With Puljujärvi moving to the top line, it kind of indicates to me that they might switch up and go to McDavid in that shutdown role, which would probably make sense because that Edmonton second line as a shutdown line had not been doing very well. They're at about a 45% expected goal share, allowing 38 scoring chances against per 60 minutes. There was a reason why Leon Draisaitl was never in that role his entire career. I think we need to be reasonable about what they can and can't do. So I'm just kind of guessing as to what they're going to do, but it would indicate to me that Kane, McDavid, and Puljujärvi are going to be used against Keller, Schmaltz, and either Galchenyuk or Ritchie, whoever ends up on that top line. And that takes them completely out of play for me because McDavid and Puljujärvi, if you look at their numbers together this year, they've been absolutely outstanding together. Puljujärvi really helps control the game, along the boards, down low, those types of things, and really helps limit the other team offensively. So, I think if I was to play Arizona tonight, I would definitely be out on the top line. I would probably dip down to the second line of Boyd, Kessel, and Krause, assuming that is the 3-man because those guys, they don't have a great sample together. But Krause has been playing fairly well of late, at least since returning from injury. I think he just crossed the 20-goal mark for the season, which I couldn't believe. 20-goal scorer on that team besides Keller or Schmaltz. And, two out of the 3 guys do get top power play minutes on that second line. And Edmonton doesn't have a very good penalty kill. Let's be honest about this. The Edmonton penalty kill is one of the Achilles heel of this team over the year. It's one of those things that has gotten better under Jay Woodcroft, but it's still near the middle of the pack. And they take a lot of penalties. They're in the bottom 10 from time shorthanded over the last 6 weeks. So, if you want to get to a 2-man, Krause, Kessel or something like that, I think that's just fine. On the Arizona side, throw in some Boyd because he's cheap enough, but I think it would be Krause and Kessel that I like the most in the Arizona side because I think the Edmonton penalty kill can be had, but back-to-back on the road is just a really tough situation for them. So, obviously I do really like Edmonton here tonight. It's just a matter of what you do with the Oilers. Because if you look at how they spread out the power play, McDavid, Puljujärvi, and Kane, only one of those guys is on the top power play unit. So I think with Edmonton, I would power play stack here. Arizona has a very bad penalty kill, typically has for most of the season. Again, like Edmonton's, it's gotten a little bit better as the season has worn on, but their goaltending has kind of let them down. And with Karl Vejmelka having played last night, I think he might go again here tonight, but if he doesn't, it's Joseph Coronash for San Jose, and he's not an NHL goalie. Like, there's a reason why he's been down in the AHL. So Edmonton power play stack here I think is just fine. And I hate to say it, but I think we can even include Tyson Barrie into that mix as well, because his minutes, the problem with Barrie 2 months ago was he was playing power play 1, but 15 minutes a night. Barrie now, he's getting over 20 minutes. I think he was up to like 23 or 24 on Saturday night. So, and he's even been shooting more. He kind of looks like the guy that was there in Colorado, let's say. So, Edmonton power play stack for me, if I were to even strength stack any of the lines, it would be the second line, Hyman, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, because I do want to get 2 out of 3 pieces of that top power play. But the stack that I'd really focus on here for the Oilers is a power play stack. I know it's across 3 lines, and that kind of sucks, but it also gives you more flexibility with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins being priced much cheaper than McDavid and Draisaitl. So, if you do have a chalky line that you're worried about, maybe one of the Vancouver lines or something like that, there are ways to get different with an Edmonton power play stack. So it's Edmonton power play for me. If you want to get to some Krause and Kessel, I think that's fine, but mostly Edmonton power play.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably be underweight on a lot of these guys individually, but what I was telling you guys earlier in Discord is just that, like, the Edmonton lineups that I do have, whatever percent it is, whether it's 20% or 25% maybe of my lineups, like, I want just unique combinations. So, maybe going with like McDavid, Kane, and then Hyman or Draisaitl or something like that as like my main stack. So I'll just be mixing and matching Edmonton for MME. Like, I think it's actually a lot harder to make one good Edmonton lineup than having a ton of different cracks at it because of how their power plays are. You mentioned Nugent Hopkins on the third line. So I'm just going to be kind of mixing and matching the good players. Probably going to end up leaving off Yamamoto, not playing with McDavid, and not playing on the top power play anymore. He's at 16% owned. So there's 16% projected ownership. So that would be my one piece of advice. I like Tyson Barrie as well, but just as an add-on, he's not a guy I'm one-offing tonight on any site. Dipping the feet in Mayo tonight, 3,300.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, he's definitely in that Tyler Myers range for me, where if you need a low 3s defenseman, that's probably going to get the shot block bonus here, or could very easily get the shot block bonus here tonight on DK. Don't mind Mayo. If you're not a believer in that Edmonton penalty kill, I do think Shane Gostisbehere makes a little bit of sense, but I see his ownership coming in at 10%, and I'm trying to figure out why. Like, I don't mind Ghost, but 2.3 total at 5K on DraftKings. I don't think he should be coming in at 10%. So I think it'd be Mayo or nothing for me on the Arizona side. And like with Edmonton, they're starting to spread out the ice time a little bit. So yeah, Barrie, if you're correlating. Otherwise, like, I don't even know if Darnell Nurse is playable anymore, 5,700. Like, if he's only going to get 21 or 22 minutes a game, I mean, it's a good enough matchup where I think almost anybody on this team is playable, but I think I would rather just save some money and just dip down to one of the cheaper guys.
Fair enough. All right, let's do the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Josh almost made it to the Hall of Fame yesterday if he wouldn't have started Spencer Knight in his single entry. A bunch of people qualified yesterday, though. Buddy Mijas, a couple other Discord members as well. Well, I guess they already have access, but if you have downloaded the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar, placed in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, and tweet your win at the Awesemo HOF account, you win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can do this once a year. You can't be doing it every single month. So let's run through some of these screenshots that we've got sent in. Actually, from one of our own, the first one, Mr. Ehrenberg, Greg Ehrenberg, took down, I think, a split with like 40 plus of his friends. He was tweeting yesterday, but it looks like he almost 10x'd in F1 DFS. I haven't had a chance to play. Have you been able to play that yet, Cliffy?
No, I haven't dug in yet, but it's something I'm going to have to get to, I guess, maybe if NHL goes away.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, F1, the huge contest over there. Greg took a split yesterday, so that is good to see. Projections are actually free on the site right now. I don't know if they'll be for this next race, but for the first two of the season, they were free. So take advantage if we still got those unlocked. Jay Freeds took down 7,500 in what I don't even know. Oh, college basketball. Okay, I didn't recognize the jerseys. I knew it was basketball, but I didn't recognize the jerseys on the thing. They can't use the players' faces, I'm assuming, on DK here. But congrats to Jay Freed for the second place finish and the $7,500. We've got Rocker Roller 707 as well. Took down NASCAR yesterday for 20K. Looks like a solo ship. And then Short Gamer TV, another NASCAR win, $35,000 in the 100K to first, got second there. And the commish, $40,000. Geez, everybody's winning tens of thousands of dollars here. 40,000 in PGA. I believe this was this past week. Yeah, it was the match play. So he says, as always, thanks for the great content, and followed all the directions there. So free month for the commish as well as 40K, not too bad. And then an NBA takedown as well from Ben P 34, first place finish, $1,000. I'm not sure if that was a mini max, but it was a night slate. So as long as you use the criteria that we've got listed, which is top three in a contest of over 5,000 contestants, and you have the avatar, you just got to tweet your wins and then claim your free month if you have not in the last 12 months. All right, Cliffy, let's get to the final game of the slate, and then we'll do hat trick picks and get on out of here. We've got the Kraken 2.4 implied total going into LA. The Kings 3.5 implied total there. Chris Drieger and Cal Peterson, depending on the site. So they need to come up with just one name for a lot of these guys. I've got beefs with a lot of these sites for making different names for these guys. Cal Peterson, Calvin Peterson, Will Borgen, William Borgen, Will Lockwood, William Lockwood. Just come up with one name, make it a little easier for us. Anyways, my favorite team, the LA Kings, my Kings are at home here in what looks to be a pretty great spot. What are you liking in this one, Cliffy?
Yeah, the Los Angeles top line just hasn't really been that good. Like, let's be honest here. I'm looking at their numbers in the month of March. 115 minutes together. Underwater by expected goal share, underwater by scoring chance share. They've scored 1 goal per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Now, obviously, that's shooting percentage driven. But, even if you triple their shooting percentage, which would be high for them, very high, even 3 goals per 60 is good, but it's not like elite for a top line or anything like that. Like, they're really having trouble generating offense. And like, Seattle's not been a bad defensive team for a little while now. I think losing Jaden Schwartz out of the lineup certainly hurts. He's probably one of their better two-way forwards, but even still, over the last 10 games, the Kraken are top 10 in the NHL by expected goals against. They're just really dragging the pace of play down, and that's a real problem for a Los Angeles top line that honestly plays pretty slow as well. So, I think I'm out on Los Angeles 1 here. They just haven't been good on the power play either, right? Like, they haven't been good on the power play, haven't been good on the penalty kill. Like, Phil Deneau, I think, is really carrying the power play of late, which is incredible to think about. So out on Los Angeles 1, in on Los Angeles 2. Their last 60 minutes together, 59 scoring chances per 60 minutes. They have just been on fire. I don't think you're going to see super high ownership on them because you can't fit them in with, your Edmontons and all that. So I do like Los Angeles too. If we get some sort of confirmation that that Jaden Schwartz will be back tonight, I wouldn't mind the top line of Wenberg, Eberle, and Schwartz. But if he's not in, there's really nothing I want to play throughout that Seattle lineup. So I think it's Kings 2 or bust for me out of this one.
Oh, it's always Kings 2 or bust. Yeah, I love them again tonight. These two teams played actually in LA 2 nights ago. I had to check this like 4 or 5 different times. But yeah, March 26th, Kraken played in LA. And so, they're just running it back 2 nights later. I am slamming LA too. I agree with Schwartz as well. I don't know if we'll have this news before the first game's lock. And I don't know if I want to like build in lineups and like blow up some lineups because of Jaden Schwartz being back on the Kraken top line in a bad spot. So if we get confirmation that he's in before, I'll definitely play some Seattle 1. LA 1, I think they're coming in a little bit over owned in the top stack. So if you like them, yeah, actually 0.1% over owned right now on the latest run. But yeah, they're still one of the best chances of being the top stack according to the top stack tool. I like my LA too, though. Been playing them a ton recently. I actually think, like, it was a joke at first. I actually think they're probably a top 2 or 3 line in the NHL, at least for DFS. Well, maybe not for DFS because they don't get top power play time, but like just being that good at generating chances over this large of a sample. Like they've got the best numbers of anybody with their sample. So yeah, I love them going up against the lonely Kraken. I don't really care which line they get. I will be playing a lot of them. And you mentioned you can't really, like, you can fit them with Edmonton, especially now with Puljujarvi. If you want to go McDavid, Kane, Puljujarvi, you can do that now. But like if you want to get the big guns in on Edmonton or Chicago, it's really difficult to stack those 2 lines together. So I like that. I thought I had something else to mention in this game. Dursey, 5,500. This guy's been just playing lights out recently.
Yeah, I'm focusing more on the Kings second line rather than a power play stack or anything like that. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of Dursey. I noticed Troy Stetcher has been putting up some shots since he got traded there. I think he might be fine for mid price. Dursey would be in the one-off bucket with Rasmus Dahlin, I think, for me here tonight. On the Seattle side, I don't like the power play, so Vince Dunn is out for me. Adam Larson, I think, makes sense for some shot blocks.
I'll throw in Susie as well for 3K. But it's just hard to rely on any of these minutes for anyone on Seattle, really. Like everything just jumps around the entire season. They're switching up lines. Guys are going from 22 minutes one game to 15 the net. Like they're just a mess. So one-off defenseman, that's 3K. That's fine. But yeah, they're just a tough team to get a grip on, and they suck. So yeah, not great for DFS. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, that would be very much appreciated. That helps us build the channel. Let's see, we're about 26,000, 27,000 away from 100K. So we're hoping to get there in the next year or so to help us be part of that. We've got Locks Before Lock coming up at 4:30 Eastern. We've got NBA Deeper Dive on 30 minutes after that, and then NBA Live Before Lock at 6 Eastern. Cliffy, goalie picks. You got any goalies that you really like? Oh, Vejmelka's also confirmed. So maybe he's the leverage guy. Might see like 40 or 50 shots here. And then your hat trick pick. I think I've got mine.
Yeah, the 2 goalies I like for reasonableness. Let's say I like Vanacek from Washington, Halak from Vancouver. If you do want to take a long shot, I don't mind Vejmelka, super cheap against Edmonton. My hat trick pick, I'm going to avoid a little bit of the chalk tonight and go to St. Louis with Pavel Buchnevich.
All right. I like it. Yeah, I was thinking about Tarasenko. I think I'm ultimately going to end up with Arvidsson. I wish he was top power play, but I don't think he's going to be in as many lineups as he should be tonight at 7,200, just because of how the pricing works out and where like the top ownership is going to. All right. Looks like we got out in just over an hour. Thank you everybody for joining. We'll have another show tomorrow. I know it's a big slate, probably some big contests on DK FanDuel, and of course, sponsor Yahoo. Go check them out if you haven't yet. And good luck. See you then.